Good morning. I'm Ed Wilke. I started my Marine Corps career. Um, Interesting enough, I graduated high school in June of 1963. And prior to graduation, one day I came home, got off the bus, and my parents had arranged an interview for me, unbeknownst to me. And walked into the house, and there at the kitchen table with my mother and father was a Marine Corps recruiter, full dress blues. And so we sat down and talked. They had aspirations for me to join the Marine Corps that I wasn't even aware of. So we talked, and things were kind of hard. So they knew I had to go into the service, get advantage of the GI Bill and some other things. Of course, no one could foresee what was going on. But anyway, that was in June of 63, and in August of 63 I was at Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, California. What they call the Hollywood Marine. I'm sure I'm not the only one in this squadron from there, but that's where it started. I can remember, for those that aren't familiar with the Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego, it's located right next to the airport, and it's surrounded by San Diego. You look in the hills, and there's all kinds of homes and residents around you. It's a populated area. Well, of course, we drove in by bus. It was like 12 o'clock at night. And you get out of the bus and you line up, and my first impression was there's guys in drill instructor hats just screaming at the top of their lungs. And my first thought was, how does anyone sleep in this area with all of this noise? And of course, that night went on forever, and there was no sleep for the wicked. And but that's where it started. I did my boot camp there, which is Marine Corps boot camp. And you learn quickly what the rules were. It was a unique experience. I can look back now. At the time, was it fun? No, but it was in it. There was a method to the madness, and so I graduated the boot camp, and I was not. Oh, I don't know what they call it. They always had a platoon or the squadron. I don't know, the guy that won all the awards and everything. Verdi was the man's last name that won ours, but I was a runner-up. Anyway, I was just proud to be there. Then we went to Pendleton, and out of Pendleton, I can't remember if it was before we got to Pendleton or after I was in Pendleton, but I was in the group of the first ones that was promoted to PFC. I believe there was about, I don't know, maybe 8 of us, 10, I can't remember, but there was a group that was promoted rather quickly, and I was proud of that. So I went through Camp Pendleton, and did the military training part of it. I had qualified for avionics. That's why I had a 4-year enlistment, like the other fellows I served with. And so after Camp Pendleton, I reported to the Naval Air Station in Memphis, Tennessee. And I went to training down there. I didn't get training right away. The school was so backlogged, and so I spent some time on grounds duty. I was lucky. I didn't get mess duty. I got grounds duty, maintaining barracks and the yards and working on. And I did that for several months, and then I finally got into the actual training, avionics training. Graduated at Memphis, and then I was given orders to report to HMM 364 in Orange County, California, at Santa Ana, California, and I reported there. And I remember I was very proud because I had saved enough money that I bought myself a 1955 Chevy. And it had a 56 engine in it, and I drove it cross country and reported, and so I felt I was in pretty good shape, and things went well. I met some wonderful people there, um, and of the people I met there, we were kind of a group of five, and right now there's two of us remaining. But it was a great time, and then we got our orders that we were going to Vietnam, and so I mean, my parents, they packed up and came out, and so many of my friends, Mike and Jim and Frank, they all met my parents and my sister, and so anyway, we spent some time before we had to board the Princeton and sail to Vietnam, and that was in 1965. I was in Vietnam from August of '65 until September of '66. The squadron was we went over and we opened a new airfield, Keha. And it was nothing but mud and brush, and there was nothing there. And there's before and after photos that are in our yearbook that are unbelievable. To this day, I still can't believe what the CBs and we did as a group. Of course, we lived in tents when we got there. In fact, the whole tour, and there was nothing. I mean, with the rains, there was just. It was either dust or mud. You had two options. So but the base came together quickly. They brought in huge steel mats that interlocked together, and that became the landing pads and the storage pads. We set up our avionics. I was in avionics shop, and so we set up our avionics shop, and it just. It was so busy. There was just so much to do, and so the time it went by quickly. It was a learning experience. It was fun, and now I can say that. But we were all in it together. I mean, nobody had any special treatment or got any special accommodations. So it just you felt very comfortable and just working away. Once the squadron got up and running, it wasn't the Purple Fox, as I recall, right away. And someone in the sheet metal shop, and I got out, so my memory of names, and it just I don't recall a lot of people. I wish I could remember now, but a gentleman in the sheet metal shop came up with the logo and the original design of the Purple Fox, and I've heard different stories on how the Purple Fox was formed. So it's all hearsay for me, but I think I know how it was formed. But anyway, that we adapted that as our squadron logo, and they made stencils. They painted it on the tails of all the airplanes, and it was and things moved on from there. I did. Originally, we just worked in the shop, and then they said that obviously the helicopters need gunners, and you could qualify to be an air crew member. You had to qualify. There was a physical, there was some training you had to do, and they, as I recall, that they liked people that were from the different shops, and being from avionics, it was important. If you ever had a problem with the helicopter, you could pitch in, you could help, you knew about the helicopter, and so you were a kind of a valued member of the team. Well, I qualified Yes, we actually shot, and we used to fly out over the water. They'd set up oil drums. You had to qualify with the M60, and you know, the loading, unloading, disassembly, and as I remembered it wasn't a really detailed, but there was definitely, that I recall, training involved, and so you you um, you had to earn the wings and to be an air crew member and a gunner, and I did. And I mean, there were several of us in the shop. Now, there were some people that either didn't want to do it, it was a volunteer, and there were others that I think volunteered and didn't qualify. But I enjoyed it. I've always loved flying. I wanted to be part of the air crew, and to me, it was part of the experience. I wanted to do it, and I didn't think about the dangers or anything at the time. Um, it came to light to me. I believe I was already qualified as a gunner, but one of the very early missions, one of the very first crews that we lost, if again, memory, that's a long time ago in a land far, far away, but we lost one crew, and as I understood it, they took a tracer through a fuel cell, and the airplane caught fire, and magnesium, you know, it just never made it to the ground. And that's when reality set in. That it didn't deter me. It didn't, but you knew then that not every day was going to be a normal fun day. And so, but I enjoyed it. I flew primarily with a crew chief. I believe his name was Keith Todd. This was his second tour, so I respected him a great deal. He knew the helicopter. We kind of got along, and that's where I flew most of my time with. Was with Keith, and we'd go on long missions. I remember, and I can't remember the name of the mission, but it was several days, and you would just go out and you'd fly the resupplies during the day, and at night you'd come back, you'd work on the helicopter and bunk out in the cabin, and the next day it would start all over again. But I think the thing that kind of got to me, along most of the missions we flew were resupply missions, but it depended on the zone. Some zones were friendly, some zones were not, but I never really had a difficult experience. Others did. Other people flew into some zones, and I do recall. The closest that I came to anything is I recall being on a resupply mission. We were circling the area, and they were telling the pilots that they could see them, and they would deploy the smoke to the landing zone, so we knew where to set down and offload the supplies. And we spotted the smoke. The pilots did. I didn't see it on my side, but they spotted the smoke, and we started the circle. We started our approach in, and we were at the ready for anything. And we were just about coming over, and I don't know what made the pilots say this or anything, but because he'd been saying, we see the smoke, we have the smoke, we're clear to let you know. And all of a sudden, he made a comment that, okay, we have the orange smoke and we'll be in. And we were on our way down. We were almost down. And I remember this panicked voice came back over the radio, and negative on the smoke, green smoke, abort, abort. And apparently, they had been listening to the conversation, or they knew, but they only had an orange smoke grenade. And so they set it off. And if he wouldn't have said, we've got the orange smoke, who knows what we would have landed into. And it was kind of a realization to myself, and I'm sure the others, that just how quickly something routine can turn into not so routine. So that was a lesson learned. Um, Other things, again, I saw a lot of things happen. It didn't, I was on a mission, we had landed, and again, a resupply mission. We had set down, we're offloading supplies, and the second helicopter came in right behind us, and I watched it in like slow motion. When it landed, the strut broke, the gear strut. And the airplane went over, and of course the props started hitting the ground, and that thing just bounced along and bounced all over with the prop hitting the ground, and it was surreal. I mean, I'm watching this, and it was just, it's happening right in front of me. And the crew members were all right. They got them all out. As I recall, everyone was good. I remember that either the pilot or the co-pilot, the inside of his legs were just black and blue from the stick. When the props or the rotors would hit the ground, it was just the stick was just beating them. But they all made that. And so it was those kinds of daily things. We generally knew sometimes if we were going into a hot zone or a routine mission, but routine was be prepared, you know. So you just went along with that. It was the way things were. At night we'd come back after flying, and there was always work to do. I can remember that one night we had a DME unit, directional like avionics equipment, and the helicopter had taken a shot, and it went through the wiring harness to this unit, and that unit's located back in the tail. And I can remember after one day of flying and came back, and I was assigned I had to go back into the tail of the helicopter and repair this harness wire by wire by wire, and you're with a little flashlight, and it's hot, and there's no wind. I mean, and I was like, oh, I'd rather be somewhere other than here. But that was just one of the jobs that I remembered that I really, the rest of them were routine, and you learned different things as you went along, but that assignment I didn't like that night. But the plane flew the next day, and that's what it took too. And again, I wasn't the only one doing it. There were fellow avionics people and mechanics working all night. They fly during the day and work at night and get them ready again. I'm not sure, but I believe the squadron had one of the best readiness ratings, and I don't know that. But I believe it did, and I was proud to be a part of it. As far as the rest of it, that's kind of the way it went. You didn't fly every day. Some days you'd fly all day, and I took beautiful pictures. I did have some beautiful pictures of the countryside when it was fun. There were some beautiful views, beautiful scenes, beautiful country, and could turn into Hell's Half Acre in a heartbeat. But I had some really nice. Unfortunately, they were 35mm slides, and I still have them, but they've started to discolor and stuff. And I'm told they can restore them, and I should probably. The food, I did serve on mess duty a couple of times, not very much. I mean, I did pick up Lance Corporal, and I was a corporal, and so I didn't have to serve a lot, but I did. The food was good. As I remember, the food was okay. And again, the expansion of this base, because when we landed, there was nothing. And then we put the mats down in the landing fields, and the shops and tents were all around it. And then the hills, the mess tent went up on the hills, and then other often and a triage or a hospital unit went up on a hill. And pretty soon, this hillside, by the time we left, within a year's time, it was totally built up. it really, you look at the hill, we were down on the other side of the pad. Yeah, and it was just amazing to see all of this develop. We were busy with our routine and doing our thing, and it just seemed like this city grew up around you while you were out doing your thing, and it was quite impressive. We left when the squadron departed back. We left in phases. They would bring new people in, and certain people would leave and everything, and kind of leads me to my final story, what I remember the most, and it was my last mission. Um, about a half of the squadron or more, I'd say more, had already been deployed, and I was there, and the crew chief I had flown with before. But anyway, back to the original story. They got a call that there was a mission. They had a medevac mission, hot zone medevac mission. They needed to get it going, and the way I was told it went, the pilot and the co-pilot went in and got their debriefing and everything, and the co-pilot was new, had just reported, put his duffel bag down, and wasn't much later this came up. So they were in getting their briefing, and the pilot, and to this day, I wish if anybody's listening to this and knows who the pilot was, I can't remember the man's name or the crew chief I was with. Just, anyway, he came out, and I was told by the crew chief that he said, this is a hot zone, this is a hot mission, we're due to rotate out of here. I do not want this to be my last mission. And he said, the co-pilot, brand new, doesn't even have the duffel bag unpacked, and I'm told the gunner is brand new. First tour, brand new. I don't want that. You go out, find a gunner that's flown before that's still here. And so he came in and looked me up, and he said, Ed, we've got a hot medevac mission. The co-pilot's a rookie, the gunner's a rookie. We don't want a rookie gunner. We want somebody, and would you consider going along with us? And sure. I'm just packing up stuff here in the shop. I'll go. And so I did. We went and took off, and we got the call, and they confirmed it was a hot zone. We made our arrangements, and we went down in, and as soon as we landed, everything had been quiet until then, and as soon as we landed, it just broke loose, and the brush by me, I couldn't see the people, I couldn't see a person, but it just lit up with muzzle flashes, and you could hear the helicopter being hit, and so you just return fire, and I remember returning the fire, and they were loading the people in. The crew chief was getting as many people in, and the ground people were throwing people in as best they could. It was just, and then we were gone. But while we were doing this, the helicopters not totally landed. The pilots keep things so we can get out. They don't just land and shut down. So the helicopter is bouncing around and moving around, and people are being thrown in. Well, all of a sudden, I find myself on the floor, and I'm like, they bucked me off, because the seats we had, they were just a little crew seat that folded down, but it was maybe 18 inches, 20 inches wide, and we'd had a place of boilerplate steel put on it underneath as a deflector. And I had been kneeling on the seat, returning the fire and everything. And when I got knocked off, it just, I didn't think anything of it. And so I got back up and things were still going. Well, shortly after that, we took off and left the zone. And then I finally get a chance to look around and everything appears okay. The co-pilot, you could hear him, he was in total disbelief. Because for a first mission, he got a rough start and he just, he was just, I can't believe this, they're shooting it. It just, what a wake-up call it was for him. I'm sure he had a much better day after he got back. But anyway, we took off, and I looked around at the wounded we had picked up, and one of them, poor guy, he had a head wound, and it just, we just knew it. But we got clearance to go to the hospital ship. We were going to take them. They were serious enough that we were going to take them directly to the hospital ship, not anywhere. So we were headed there, and the crew chief looked over at me, and he's kind of looking around, and I, what? And he said, "What's the matter with your leg?" And I said, "I don't know." And I looked at my leg, and the whole side of my trousers was red. And I didn't know it at the time, and we didn't. So he came over, and we cut the trousers open, and I didn't fall off the seat. I got shot off the seat. It turns out that a round had come through while I was kneeling on the seat. And thank the man upstairs, because in the side wall of the helicopter, we used to put maintenance equipment. And there was a can of penetrating oil that was behind a wire and was down there. And the round had come through, hit the can of penetrating oil, and then came, and the boiler plate on our seats was literally right here, and the hole in the canvas was right here. It could, another half inch over, and it would have just deflected it, but it was here. But the good news is that I have shrapnel still in the knee. They couldn't get it all out, but I still have a knee. If it wouldn't have hit the penetrating oil, I don't know. Anyway, they wanted to turn the helicopter around and said, take me back to the base and get me back there so I could get treatment. And the whole time I'm looking at these brothers up the floor, and I said, no. No. Boy, I haven't told a story in a long time. So I said, no, go to the ship. I'm okay. And so they did. And we went to the ship, dropped them off. I found out later that the brother with the head wound didn't make it, but the others did. And then they dropped me off, and of course I went into surgery, and they got everything treated. Like I say, I was very, very lucky, and but I was surprised to learn after my return to the States. When I did return to the States, the others had to pack gear, and my friends Mike and Jim and others, I think they were still there. They packed my gear, packed my sea bag, packed everything the best they could, and I do remember this. They saved out my best utility uniform, so that I could wear it when I got transferred to the I flew from there to the Philippines for additional surgery and treatment, and I got all dressed up in my best uniform, and they flew me to the Philippines, and I remember.
Okay.
So they flew me to the Philippines, and they put me in a hospital there. But I remember when I got off of the stretcher, onto this bed. This is the first time in a long time that I had hit clean sheets. And I can remember looking down at the best set of dungarees I owned on these clean white sheets, and they were terrible. We were, and I thought, well, I hope they never see my daily wear stuff, because this is the best I've got. And the nurse came over immediately, and they're prepping me, and he says, "Oh, we have to get this filthy uniform off of," and she's cutting my, and I'm like, "Hey, these are the best I've got." Don't. So anyway, I was at the Philippines for a while, and they transferred my gear back. I flew from there. The others, many of them had to take ship back and stuff with all the hair. I flew from the Philippines to the States, and I want to say it was somewhere, a big air base in Great Lake, or I don't. Ultimately, I ended up at Great Lakes Naval Hospital, and my parents knew nothing at this point. They hadn't been contacted. They knew I was going to do to rotate home soon and everything. And so when I got to Great Lakes, again, as a Marine, I've been 13 months over there. You just say and do silly things. And so I was allowed to call my parents. And I said, well, I've got good news. I'm home. And, oh, where are you? And they're thinking I'm calling from California or something. And I said, well, I'm at Great Lakes. And my dad, my mom's on the phone with me. And I said, I'm at Great Lakes. And they said, okay, well, when are you coming up? And I said, well, it'll be a while. I'll be coming up. Anyway, long story short, I told her, I said, well, I'm in Great Lake, because Mom didn't understand how I could be so close. And they were in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And well, you got to come home. You're this close. You just come home. And I said, well, I can't. I was shot. And there was silence on the phone. I guess, to me it was over. It was done. So that's how my mom learned that I had been. I told her, right, oh, I've been shot, and I guess she almost fainted. My dad had to grab the phone. I never even thought about what it would do to. Anyway, they said, well, okay, we'll be down, and I said, no, we're okay. I'll be fine. Of course, 2 hours later, they're there and with my sister, but it was how you just. It was not how quickly you get back into a normal state of mind, and yet I was not still in Vietnam, and after that I got that taken care of, and I was in Great Lakes for a while. There were some complications, but so the others had all reported back to Santa Ana, and I remember I was so glad that I got orders back to Santa Ana. And it was embarrassing for me, and it was embarrassing for a lot of people. I never knew anything about this, and apparently the avionics shop officer in charge, Warrant Officer Redford, he had recommended me for an award as a result of that, and I didn't know it. And, I knew obviously I'd get a Purple Heart, but it wasn't about that. And anyway, I was there, and I learned, the commander, or first sergeant, anyway, they called me in, and they said, I just received this letter, and that I was going to be awarded the Silver Star for it. And I couldn't believe, anyway, for that action, I was awarded that. I wish there was a way I could share it with everyone that's no longer here or not here. I don't talk about it. Well, there are people that know I have it, but it's just, and I'm trying to. I don't have a lot of family. I don't have a future, but I'm really trying to pursue and see. I haven't gotten an answer yet, but I'd like to know if I could be laid to rest someday in Arlington with other brothers. And I don't know. We'll just follow that up and see what happens, I guess. After the Marine Corps, I did leave after 4 years, and I went to work for United Airlines. I went to school in Tulsa, Oklahoma, got my avionics and FCC tickets and license. I went to work for United Airlines, started as a mechanic in the electrical field, and I had a career with them. I spent 37 years with them, worked myself up to we called them operations managers. And my last 22 years I was in Los Angeles as the operations manager, maintenance operations manager. And what that meant is I had shift responsibility for the entire maintenance operation, the work that was being done, the planes coming and going, the mechanics, the staff, the supervisors. At one time, when LA was a really big station, I liked primarily working the midnight shift. That's when that maintenance was done. And not a good politician, so I let that to the other people. But at one point, I had 422 direct reports in just one station on one shift. Because it's a rotating 24/7 schedule, and I was very pleased. I did very well, and I left United when the bankruptcy thing started. But all in all, I enjoyed a good career with United, very successful career. Started as a mechanic, ended up as a maintenance manager, and and then I went to work for a small cargo company for a while, and they moved their operation, and they told me I could move to New York, and I said, I don't want to do that. So 8 years ago, September 1st, 2005, I retired. And I don't want to go back to work anymore. So that's it. I've enjoyed. I'm blessed. I have good friends that I've met here. I didn't make all the reunions that I wish I would have. There's life, always sometimes you can't, but now in hindsight, I wish I'd have made more. This is about my fourth or fifth one. And it's good to see them. It refreshes in me what we shared and what we did. And I'm proud of everybody, because so many of them did stay in, and it became their life, and I admire that. I envy that for those who did, and I know it wasn't easy, and some went back for 2 and 3 tours, and I took the easy road. But to me, it brings me back, and you with a band of brothers again, and whether you stayed in or didn't stay in, it didn't matter. And so I would never trade anything that happened to me. If I had to do it all over again, or could do it all over again, I'd do it all over again. And they make me appreciate that. So that's why I'm glad to be here. I don't know a lot of them because, like I say, I got out, and life was different for me, but this brings me back.